would you self-identify as a feminist?
Yeah.
Okay. And then do you think that it's bringing back communism?
No. But
No.
I don't think there's ever been communism, unless you can think of a communist society.
Well, is it moving us towards that or helping
Yes.
to move us towards that? Okay, ideologically. Okay. So that's not in dispute. And then do you think it's reviving wokeness?
No. But what do you mean by wokeness?
Well, I'm asking you from your metric, whatever you think wokeness is.
I mean, generally speaking, like wokeness is kind of this catch-all term that I feel like people just play fast and loose with. Sometimes they mean kind of the excesses of social justice. Other times it means kind of literally any promotion of social equality.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably closer to my understanding of it, or what constitutes like woke ideas. And in that sense, yeah, feminism is moving us closer towards a more woke society.
Okay, I feel like we understand the ideology a little bit. And then over here, let's dive into the same questions, exact same ones.
Okay.
First, feminism. Do you identify as a feminist?
No.
Okay. And then is feminism assisting with the revival of communism or moving us towards that ideologically?
Yes, the communists used feminism as a tool to further communism. So the first International Day of Women was founded and formulated by communists.
And then is it reviving wokeness?
I didn't ever see wokeness really die. I saw maybe a kind of moving away from it in the past, 3-4 years, but I don't think it's dead. I think it's alive and well.
So since wokeness is such a nebulous term, and both of you have kind of agreed that that's a nebulous term, let's leave that off of the table for the purpose of the debate, and we'll focus on whether or not feminism is destroying America and whether or not it's moving us towards communism, and if that's a good thing, you think it is, you think it isn't. So with that, I'll open the floor here a little bit so we can get kind of back and forth into this debate. So it's the pro side for feminists. You can go ahead and open.
Pro side, I see a lot more upsides and downsides to the...
It is Rumble Wallet on the App Store. My friends, you got to check it out. They can cancel your accounts. They can freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, say or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters now more than ever. Go to wallet.rumble.com. It's non-custodial. Okay, let's break this down. What does it mean? On the Rumble wallet, you can trade crypto with people who have accounts on Rumble. It's like an app where you can send people cash, but it's either Tether Gold, or Bitcoin, making it really easy for you to tip people on Rumble and pay somebody money you owe them. Maybe you're going to the store and you're like, hey, man, I want to get a slice of pizza. I didn't bring cash. Hey, let me Rumble wallet you some Tether, which is effectively tied. It is effectively US dollars. It's tied to the US dollar. There's no permission, no middleman, no cancel button. No one's banning you. No one's spending your accounts. Rumble has no control over this. There's no reality where Rumble can go in and ban you and shut down your ability to trade your currency. It is yours. It's not a credit line that can be shut off. It's your wallet, permanently yours. When the systems fail, institutions turn on their own people. Rumble Wallet is about politics, it's about freedom and ownership and protecting what's yours. So take control. Download Rumble Wallet now. Step away from the big banks. Go to wallet.rumble.com and check it out. We got a link for you too. I think it's okay. Well, that's not a good link I can say, but I'll have a link in the description below. Check it out.
Promotion of the social equality, economic equality of women alongside men. I largely think that this promotes, better social attitudes and relationships between genders, the sexes, however you want to, whichever lines you want to divide it amongst. I see more participation in the economy as a net good, but overall, I also really care about, and I think most feminists care about, personal liberty, personal freedom, and the primary thing I'm always concerned about is people just being able to have the ability to kind of make the choices in their life that they feel comfortable with. If that means embracing motherhood, the family, being a stay-at-home mom, that's great. If that means working and raising a family simultaneously, that's fine. If that means solely working and you're not interested in kids, I think all of these things are fine. It just, I just want people to, women specifically, to largely be able to be in charge of the decisions that dictate their life.
I promise I'll let you get into it. Before you do, you might have a little opening that you want to give there too, kind of in response.
Well, I think the opening is kind of pushing back on all those points, because feminism never was about, well, we're okay with you doing what you do and you do. It was very antagonistic towards women who wanted to stay in the home, especially if we want to call it second wave, sexual liberty, whatever it was. It was, you're a slave. its enslavement, the drudgery of motherhood. It was constantly framed as you are trapped by motherhood. Motherhood is a trap. So to say that feminism promotes, it's just you do what you do, that's a good choice, that's a good choice, that's not. It did value women's independence over other choices. And it saw children as burdens, which then gave rise to more abortions. And it really wanted to, I think, make women a superior sex to men. It triumphed independence over everything else, over codependence, over roles. So I don't think that that's true, that feminism is all about just choice. Then I think you also have to define what freedom is.
Well, the first thing we should do is make sure we get both of your definitions of feminism so that we're not speaking past each other, right? So starting with you, how would you kind of define it? Now, I understand you're not going to be able to give me an Oxford definition, and I'm not asking you to. Just even a proprietary one so we understand where you're coming from the worldview.
I would say the promotion of social equality between men, women, sexes, genders on economic grounds as well, and prioritizing liberty, independence for women. Within that, obviously, I think it's not really, the characterization you just gave of what you understand to be feminism. I find a lot of people that push back against feminists or like feminist goals, feminist aims, kind of have this caricature of what they believe the goals of feminism are, which is supremacy to men, supremacy over men rather than equality. And I think to the extent that you can make that argument, the promotion of social equality between the sexes might
But hang on. Let's just start with kind of a summarized definition that we can work from.
But just generally, promotion of social inequality,
Okay.
but not supremacy over other genders or men.
To me, I mean, that's fine. We can even look up. I mean, if we want to look up what the dictionary
I'm fine
says
putting
about
up
it.
a dictionary definition. You don't have to use a proprietary one, but just
it doesn't. The thing is it doesn't matter. It's how has it played out, right? The definitions at some point don't matter. The technical definitions with a movement, right? It is what people think it is, and it is what the consequences to society has been. And the consequences have been taking women out of the homes, trying to, it's weird because feminism says it's for women, but what it's resulted in is women becoming more like men and almost regarding men as the superior sex. That's how it's played
very
out.
Very quickly, maybe we can summarize this easily then. The official definition here, the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of equality in sexes, I think that that's up for dispute. I would just add that it's a movement towards egalitarianism, right, and the attempt to deconstruct the patriarchy. Would you agree that that's about right in summarization?
I think that's important. The deconstruction of the patriarchy.
So now we've established kind of something that we can both work off of here. For the purpose of the debate. I'm sorry we had to caveat this a little bit, but I want to get to the heart of the issue or we'll never be able to debate it
And
out.
even to segment this into four more complex things is there's four waves of feminism up to this point, and they're all different. And they use the same word, feminism, but they have a different definition in every era that you see it. Like the women's right to vote was a big part of the second wave.
The thing is, though, is that she just said the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of equality and the deconstruction of patriarchy. She agrees.
You want to stick with that death for now?
Well, they're operating off of this worldview regardless of the wave. And so if that's going to help us get to the heart of the matter, then let's use that to get to the heart of the matter. And I'm going to kind of open the floor here a little bit for you guys.
The other thing is that what we consider first wave in America, feminism, which wasn't really the first wave because it goes back further than that. But in America, the first wave, the suffrage movement, the right for women not to be defined as property, they didn't identify as feminists. They didn't call themselves feminists. Now, I can argue that I didn't even believe that their understanding of taking over the patriarchy was correct. However, that term came to them retroactively. So that's one thing.
Yeah. You did say something earlier, like Andrew was saying, just like broadly, we've agreed upon this definition for the purposes of the debate. But as Ian mentioned, there have been different iterations of, first wave feminism, which is primarily what you talked about, women's suffrage, political representation via voting. And then you had like second wave feminism, and that is where you actually did see more attitudes where feminists were speaking out against women being confined to the family. You have feminists like Betty Friedan who talked about, the problem that has no name, and
he
how
was a communist, by the way.
Suburbia and these sorts of things end up, while they may promise a kind of dream life for women where they have the nuclear family, they're raising their kids, they're supported by a husband, these don't actually fulfill or live up to what they promise, and they leave women feeling alienated, depressed, etc. And then you have, third and fourth wave feminism that are more often than not coming in contradiction now with second wave feminism, as they're more interested in expanding equality for women beyond the basis of sex solely. You see
but you
the
would agree
inclusion of
they're
like
all
trans
moving
rights,
towards the
etc.
same goal,
but
right?
they're all broadly moving in the same goal. But there are a few times where you do see differences, like second wave feminists more likely to identify as like TERFs, the Andrew Dworkin and whatnot,
because they see how they protect women in a different way from
Yes.
their view. But they're still attempting to deconstruct the patriarchy on behalf of egalitarianism, right?
Yeah, correct.
You would agree that each wave has this in common.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we can consolidate that a bit. Go ahead.
So you said that the promise of marriage, family wasn't fulfilled. Women at home weren't fulfilled. I would say the opposite now.
I said that those feminists in second wave, like Betty Friedan, argued that.
So how's that working out for us now? Because the promises that those women made, that you'll be happier when you're independent, you'll be happier when you can work like a man, when you can make money like a man, when you can have consumer purchasing power like a man, it doesn't seem to be working out so well. There are upwards of 60% of women on SSRIs. We see this war between the sexes. Men and women are not dating. They're not reproducing. They're not happy. They're miserable. Look at the women out in Minnesota right now. I've never seen angrier women in my life. They have no direction. They have no purpose.
And they're fat.
And we can
women,
make an
I'm telling you,
argument
the women
that
in Minnesota,
there is
seed
an
oils,
anger.
man.
There is an inherent anger at the way God has made women. They are rebelling against what women would see as God, as the patriarch. They are rebelling against their own form and function, their wombs, their innate design. You can call it God, you can call it natural law, whatever you want to call it. There's just this anger for themselves at who they are and what they were made to do.
I think I would agree with you that the social ills and issues that you're talking about with increased loneliness that pertains to women and men alike, economic anxiety, people not feeling like they have the ability to start a family, etc. I don't disagree with you that all of these problems persist throughout society. I think I just disagree with you that it's the result of feminism, largely to the extent, or like when you talked about there being higher instances of use for women like with SSRIs. Like, what do you believe is the reason for that? Do you really think it's just feminism?
I think it's a big part of it. I think it's they believe the lie that independence is the primary virtue for women. I think that, men and women are meant to be complementary. They're meant to support each other's strengths. I don't think men and women are equal. I think they're equal under the law. I don't think they're equal under natural order. And I'll play devil's advocate. I've been in a hospital with my mother the past week, and I have to say the women doctors, I enjoyed them more because they weren't so offended when I asked them questions. I know enough about the medical field to be dangerous. And when I would ask them questions, it was like their ego wasn't bruised, right? So I like their bedside manner more. So there are certain careers that I think women and men can both excel in. But when it comes to a surgeon, I don't care what his bedside manner is. If he's working on my mother, I want him. And what I don't want is unfair. They're being hired based on their sexual characteristics, right? Not on their merit, right? So anyway, I kind of I veered off a little bit with that, but all that to say is, like, I'm not saying women can't work. What I'm saying is the second wave feminists, what they promised has not come to fruition. Just like you said, what the family promised. And I would say the family, the main cause of women being kind of depressed, needing mother's little helper, right, in the 50s and the 60s, was because it was the industrial era. Everything used to be centered around the home. The whole economy that we used to have with agrarian culture was almost like communist. It was sharing.
It was communitarian.
It was communitarian, right? And so when the Industrial Revolution took the men out of the home, I understand why women felt burdened. They lost their partner. They lost their mate. So we're going to have to shift. Like I'm not saying there can't be changes to how the family functions, that we need to go back to the agrarian. We're not going back there. But I don't think you can deny the fact that a family unit, a mother and a father in a loving relationship with children is the best to build a society.
I do think that the most important thing is that children feel supported. And right now, given the current economic order, dual income households are necessary for people to be able to adequately support all children that they have. But returning to a claim that you made earlier, you said you don't believe that men and women are equal, right?
Not by design.
Not by design. But you did say equal under the law. Mm-hmm. Do you support repealing the 19th Amendment? Do you think that women ought to be able to vote?
I think that can be up for debate about the pros and cons of it. The fact of the matter, again, it's definitions. It's never going to happen. It's not politically viable.
Hang on. I know it's up for debate, but that's what we're here. We're debating.
Right, but I also don't want to get off. I don't want to go down into the weeds into this. It's not going to happen.
It's not
politically.
I don't think
it's not politically viable.